Good day everyone, I am Chris Siren Q de la Peña from BSc 1-2 and today we're gonna tackle about battered woman syndrome, postpartum stress syndrome, and postpartum psychosis. But before we head to our discussion, let's have an icebreaker first. So, in our icebreaker, I provided some jumbled letters that you're going to fix and I will read the meaning of its answer. So, it will be easier for you to think the answer. And I'll just give you 3 seconds to think. So, let's now proceed to our icebreaker. So, the first one is women who are stuck within or have recently left a violent relationship is what we call your timer starts now in 3, 2, 1. If you answered battered woman syndrome, then you're correct. Second, it is the causes feelings of anxiety and self-doubt. Your timer starts now in 3, 2, 1. If you answered postpartum stress syndrome, then you're correct. And lastly, it is caused by multiple factors, is uncommonly with only 1 in 1,000 women developing this within a few days after childbirth. Your timer starts now in 3, 2, 1. If you answered postpartum psychosis, then you are correct. So now that we're done to our icebreaker, let's now proceed in our discussion. So, first topic that we're going to discuss is battered woman syndrome. So, what is battered woman syndrome? Battered woman syndrome is a psychological term used to describe women who are stuck within or have recently left a violent relationship. So, before we go deeper to our topic, I'm going to introduce you Leonore E. Walker. So, Leonore E. Walker is an American psychologist, founded the Domestic Violence Institute, documented the cycle of abuse, and wrote The Battered Women in 1979. So, according to her, there are 3 stages of battered woman syndrome. So, the first one is tension. So, during this stage, the tension building stage, relatively minor incident increases the tension in the relationship and culminate in the eruption violence. So, dito, you and your partner always fight with each other, scolding each other, but there is no physical violence involved. So, second one, violent incident. This violence may be short-lived or last for a few days. Often, it is at this stage that police are notified or legal proceedings begun. But in some ways, the victim will deny the accusation to her abusive husband. So next, the third stage is honeymoon or loving contrition. So in honeymoon or loving contrition, during this time, the abuser is often very loving and remorseful. So what do you mean by that? Lagi nang nagbibigay ng mga gifts, your husband starts to love you and care for you. Like he became the opposite attitude while in this stage. So next, the cycle repeats itself and violence become more intense. The tension building stage lengthens and the honeymoon stage decreases or disappear entirely. So, next is battered woman can also result in the development of survival personality, in which the person acts out of fear and attempts to avoid further harm. So, here is an example of battered woman syndrome. So, the husband tortured his wife for a long time, physically and emotionally. After one episode of beating her, the wife took a gun and shot his head. So simple, right? The wife doesn't want any further harm, so she just simply kills his or her husband so that she won't get any physically and emotionally abused. So question, does the wife will go to the jail because of that incident? The answer is no. Why? Because battered woman syndrome is considered as a form of self-defense under the Republic Act number 9262, the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children. Now let's proceed to the postpartum stress syndrome and postpartum psychosis. So, what is postpartum syndrome? So, it causes feelings of anxiety and self-doubt. Women usually function fairly well and get through their day, though they feel awful inside. So, postpartum stress syndrome is an emotional reaction which fall between baby blue eyes and postpartum depression. So, in baby blue eyes, mostly new moms ang nakaka-experience nito. It usually happens after giving birth to their child, which commonly include mood swings, crying, spells, anxiety, and difficult in sleeping. So, next one is peripartum depression. So, like in baby blue eyes, in peripartum depression, new moms din yung nakaka-experience ng mga ganito. But it is more severe, long-lasting form of depression. It is also known as peripartum depression because it can start during pregnancy and continue after childbirth. So, what does depression mean? So, basically, the word depression is not new to us in this generation because a lot of people experiencing this kind of mental illness. So, let's just proceed to the clinical depression. Clinical depression is defined as prolonged, intense, sad, empty feelings lasting for 2 weeks or more. Next is anhedonia. Anhedonia, to be diagnosed with any major depressive disorder, not just postpartum depression, an individual must experience depressed mood or anhedonia. So, here are the symptoms of anhedonia: excessive weight loss or gain, insomnia or excessive sleep, fatigue, feeling of worthlessness, difficulty concentrating, and suicidal thoughts. So next, what is postpartum psychosis? Postpartum psychosis is caused by multiple factors, is uncommonly, with only 1 in 1,000 women developing postpartum psychosis within a few days after childbirth. So, here are the signs of postpartum psychosis: hearing voices or sounds no one else can hear, thought of hurting oneself baby, no sleep in 48 hours, cannot care for the baby or self, rapid weight loss without trying, and can't control her thoughts. So, if you guys know someone or if you experiencing this kind of symptoms, you should immediately see your doctor. And for the battered woman syndrome, you can call for someone or call an law enforcement so that it will end right away. So this is the end of our discussion. I hope you learned something to my report. Thank you.